Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda of Amanda Creek Creative, and this video is all about how to tidy up and simplify your website. So something that I recommend that you do at least once or twice a year is take the time to do a website audit. And a website audit really is just tidying up your website, simplifying your website where you can, looking through your website from top to bottom, every single page, things that maybe you have as drafts, looking through your plugins, looking through every single thing with a critical eye, and just taking care of the things that are not working or that maybe can be clearer for your audience, and really making sure that your website is effective for you. So I'm going to dive in a little bit more and explain how you can do this. So let's first talk about tidying up your website. What I want you to do is look through page by page, look at your opt-in forms, and look at your links. You'll want to make sure that your links are working, so you'll want to click on them and open up the other page, wherever that leads to, whether it's your website or you've referenced another site, and make sure all those links work, because there's nothing more frustrating for a potential customer, for a potential client, than if they come to your website and they click on something and it doesn't work. I know that this is something that I always have to do. I need to do it for myself this year, so it's just something that you have to do from time to time to make sure. And of course, it's great to have a error page, so a 404 error page in place in order for them to find something that will help them, that'll assist them if those links are not working. So you'll want to just go through and make sure they all work. Also, test out your opt-in forms. Some people probably don't even test them out once they've created it, but I have like 3 or 4 email addresses, and I will go in and I'll test them out. I'll test it out first time. If everything goes smoothly, I don't test it out again. But if there's something that, like a little hiccup that happens, and I see that it didn't work as smoothly as I wanted it to, or something didn't quite end up the way that I wanted it when I created it, then what I'll do is I'll fix those things and then sign up again through another email. So that way, I can make sure that it's working okay. So the next thing, if you've run a promotion in a blog post in the past and that promotion is over, you can go back through your past blog posts and check to see, if that information is still valid. If it's not valid and that was your call to action in your blog post, what you can do is add in a new call to action. So let's say you had a promotion going on for a course, but you've decided you don't want to promote that course anymore. You've taken that course out of your shop, and now what you want to do is you actually just want to leave the blog post because the content is good, but what you would prefer to do is actually just have a question for your people when they read it to answer. Then that's all you have to do is just put in the question, so type it in and remove the other bit of information, and then you're done. So you'll just want to run through your blog posts and see if there's anything there that you can update. The next thing that you can do to tidy up your website is to delete any of your blog posts that are no longer valid. So if it no longer serves your audience, or maybe you've shifted gears and you feel like it just doesn't apply anymore, then you can just delete it. Just maybe put it into a draft if you're like, I really want to keep my words. I love this post, but it just doesn't serve my audience anymore. You can make it a draft in WordPress, or you can just delete it altogether. You could copy the content into Evernote, and then you'll always have it for you ready to go. The next thing that I always like to do is I like to go page by page and look at my services and my products and see if it's something that I do want to promote that year. If it's something that I'm just not going to put any time in, it's a service that I no longer offer, maybe it's a service that's not selling well, it's good if you just take that away from your website and you just leave the things that are actually working for you. So I always say to just do more of the things that are actually selling, because it will actually help you in the long run than trying to push something that really isn't working well for you. So if it's not working well, people aren't buying it, you are actually distracting yourself by trying to make something work that isn't working rather than just selling the things that are working. So just take away those services, take away those products that really aren't working for you, unless you haven't taken the time to market them, because if you haven't done that, then let's face it, it's probably because of marketing, not because it doesn't serve your audience well. So just kind of evaluate, figure out if it's something that you should move forward with this year. If you decide that maybe you want to try it again in the future, again, just put it as a draft instead of it being published, and you can keep it for a later date. The last thing that I really want to recommend as far as tidying up your website is I really want to recommend that you go through your themes that you're not using, your plugins that you're not using, and any pages that you started creating something and then you decided later, I don't really want this page on my website. Delete these extra things. So deleting the extra plugins will help to make your website run more efficiently. If you have them on there and you're not using them, it just creates opportunity for things to break on your website later. So delete those plugins that you're not using. Also, delete any themes that you're not using. I have logged into client websites when I've taken over as their web designer, and I have seen where they've had like 500 themes that they're not using, but they've downloaded on their site. And that's just going to slow your site down. It's not going to be something that you really need to have. And what you can do is just eliminate it, and it will make things run smoother for your website. So delete any of the plugins, any of the things that you just don't need anymore, and that will help you to have a website that's just working really effectively and it's just running really smoothly. So now we're going to dive into simplifying your site. And the reason you want to simplify your site is to make it easier for your audience. So when they come to your website, you want them to be able to navigate it really easily, be able to find the things on your website really easily. You want them to be able to just read the things that you want them to read and go through everything smoothly and easily without any kind of interruptions or things that are just, they're there, but they're not really necessary. So what you want to do is just look through these different things, see where you can simplify, make the decision of what you would like to simplify on your site, and then just write out a short checklist of these things and go through and go ahead and simplify. So number one, something that I've started recommending to my clients when they come to me for consulting is to actually narrow down what you have in your navigation bar. So a lot of times we have way too many things in our navigation bar. We have like 20 things. We don't need 20 things. We need maybe 7 things tops. You want to make sure that the information on those pages is very well laid out, that it gives them the information that they need. And then from there, you give them a choice of where to go next. And that choice may be to another page that is in your menu, or it may be to a page that's not in your menu that you link out from one of those core pages. You don't want to give too many clicks, so you don't want people to click on one thing and then click on another thing and then click on another thing in order for them to get to where they want. So you have to make sure that you're putting the appropriate pages in your menu and that they don't have to click too much from that first page that they go to, but you don't need to have so many things in your navigation bar. So that menu bar, you can look through, see if there are any pages that are just not necessary. Maybe you can use a blog post instead. Maybe you can, put it on a different page, or you can combine pages and make your website more effective and take away some of the choices. When people see too many choices, they go into the analysis paralysis, I don't know what to choose mode, because you've given them way too many choices. So narrow it down. Don't do more than 7 in the top menu bar. You do have the footer where you can put more items. So just take away some of those choices, maybe move them into the footer, or, combine pages and things. So that's what you'll want to do in order to simplify your menu bar. The second thing that I would like for you to do, and I recommend this to my clients often, is you want to have a friend or a family member go through your website for you. Something that I feel like it's just common knowledge for us as web designers is user testing. But when you're running your own website, you may not think about, I probably should have somebody walk through this while I'm sitting there to see what they're clicking on. So all you have to do is grab a friend and say, hey, can you look through my website real quick and see if there's anything that's confusing? It's just a way for you to find out how to make your website more effective and where people might be finding some confusion. So what you might want to have is like a list of 10 things for them to do. So you could say, okay, go to my shop and click on and pretend like you're going to purchase this item. Okay, go to my website and go to my work with me page and fill out the form for working with me. And then of course you know that they're not going to work with you, but they're just testing it out for you to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And then you're watching them in real time to see if it's going well. Then from there, all you have to do is simplify your site and make sure that those things are running smoother in the future. Number 3 is to make sure that each page has a call to action and make sure you're not overwhelming people with the call to action. So a call to action is just basically telling them what to do next on that page. So if they go to your Work With Me page and they find out more about your services, maybe the next step that you want them to do is to fill out a questionnaire. So make sure you have a button that links to that questionnaire where you can learn more about them, and then maybe from there you'll set up a call where you can chat with them about what they're needing. And you just want to make sure that you have that there so that they know what to do next. Because if they don't know what to do next, or you don't give them something to do next, they're just going to click away from your website and they're not going to stay there longer, find out more about you, book your service, all of the things that we want them to do. So make sure you have one call to action on each page, at least one, probably not more than 3. So make sure you simplify that, make sure it works really well from page to page, and again, do that user testing. Number 4 is to eliminate multiple clicks to get to one product, to get to one service. If people are going to your shop and then they have to click on one category and then they have to click on another category and then they get to all of the items in that particular category and then they have to click on the product that they want, ooh. Every time I show this to my consulting clients, when I'm showing them how certain people have their shop set up, every single time my clients say, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about how many clicks I want them to take. And every single time they're simplifying what they were thinking of doing. So this is extremely important for you to simplify this part of things. The less clicks that you can have your customer or your potential customer take, the better. Number 5 is to use the recommended amount of fonts and colors. I recommend that you use 3 colors to 5 colors. You don't really want to use more than that. You want to make sure that you don't really want to use more than that. You want to make sure that you are not going overboard, because the more colors you use on your website, the more kind of chaotic it becomes, the more kind of just glaring it is, and it's just so overwhelming for people because it's too much. So simplify the amount of colors. If you can use like 3 colors and use them consistently throughout your entire website, you'll be doing really good. As far as the fonts go, again, I like to choose like 3, maybe 5. I don't like to go above 5 for sure. I like to really honestly use 3. I like to have one for your like really stylistic that maybe, is like in your logo or is something that you just really love. I like to use one that is for the headers and you just put them in different sizes. And then I like to have one for the body font. I don't like to go beyond that. That's just my personal aesthetic. I do see people who use like 4 or they use 5, and I actually do really like that. It's just not how I do things. So I do recommend just sticking between 3 and 5, and that way it'll be great, it'll look nice, it will not be overwhelming, and it will kind of like start having like the cohesiveness that you need when it comes to your branding. And make sure you're using those on all of your platforms that you can use them on. So on social media and in your blog posts, everywhere that you can use it, make sure you're using the same colors and fonts. The sixth thing that I would like to mention today that you can simplify are the categories that you're using to write blog posts about. So something that I see when a lot of people come to me is that before they get a website, when they're kind of new and they're starting out, maybe they're moving from Blogger or something like that, they have a ton of categories. The list is like so long of categories that they are using to write blog posts about. But what you want to do is really narrow down those categories and be specific, because when you narrow those down, you're going to start attracting the customers that you want, and it will show that you are an expert in these areas. So narrowing it down to 6 things that you're writing about all of the time, I think that is a good way to go. 6 different categories. So for me, one might be website design, one might be WordPress tutorials, one might be photography, stuff like that. So you want to think about and get these categories and then start creating content for those categories. You don't want things to be like too diverse that it's like you're not really sure what it is that you blog about. So when you're blogging to support your website, to get people back to your website so that they're going to purchase your products, they're going to purchase your services, the less that you can do, the better. So 6 is probably a good recommendation. And number 7, this is just a personal preference. I think it helps things a lot. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do this, but this is the last thing I'm going to mention today, is to consider getting rid of your sidebar. When we are using sidebars on a desktop, it looks nice, you have some information there. It can get really cluttery really fast though. And the other thing to consider is that when you go to mobile or when you go to an iPad, that stuff is actually way far down on the page. It is underneath your post. It's underneath all of the posts, and it just kind of gets lost. So you can just completely eliminate it anyways. And rather than that, you can put your information that's most important, like maybe some related posts to keep people on your website. You can have those right underneath your blog post. Or you could put a little author section there. So you just want to think about what information is really important. Just make sure that that's available at the end of your blog post, and then eliminate the sidebar altogether. So that's it. That's all that I have for you today. I do strongly recommend you taking the time to tidy up and simplify your website. I think that doing this once a year is great, and I do want to emphasize that websites, they're never really finished. And realize that this is like an ongoing thing. Get your website to the point where it's ready to launch if you're just starting out, and then put it out there, because what you're going to have to do is over time, you're going to have to revisit it and make sure that it's working for you. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope it was really helpful for you. And if you haven't yet, hit the like button to let me know that you liked it. Leave some comments in the comment section below to let me know what you maybe want to see from me in the future. And as always, hit subscribe so you are aware of when I put new content out. And I'll see you in the next video.